Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Hello, hello. Sorry,
welcome,
I just put
welcome.
my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Hang on, I just need to stop this video that's playing in my head. There we go. Now my audio is better. Now I can hear you. Welcome. It's a privilege and an honor to have you on the show.
Well, it's an honor to be here, actually. It's very cool. So thank you for having me.
Yes. For people who maybe don't know who you are, can you just explain who Soup Mama is before we get into the whole East Palestine, Ohio thing?
Sure, no problem. Well, my first name is actually Charisse, but everyone has come to know me as Soup Mama. And I got that nickname last year when I was in Washington with the truckers convoy here in the States. So while you guys had Canada going on in Ottawa, we were in Hagerstown, Maryland with the People's Convoy. And the story goes that we were all there, and there were a lot of people that were hungry, and I had a camp stove and a soup pot, and I hooked up with a guy named Jason who had a coffee urn and a generator and a table, and between the two of us, we started cooking for everyone at the convoy, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And then we ended up with a kitchen at the end of it, and we've been going all over the country, and I've even visited Canada. And we've cooked for patriots all over. We advocate for people to get involved and active in all kinds of different things with politics, getting signed up to vote, or just getting out and getting their voices heard. We try and cover all kinds of different events and things that are going on. So we're just raising awareness and trying to do the best good that we can. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell.
Yeah, and you're out there doing, a lot of very good things to help people. And right now, one of the things you're working on is bringing aid to the people in East Palestine, Ohio. And I know you've been there
That's
already,
correct.
dropping off aid. Where is everything at with regard to that?
Okay, so at this point, we have actually donated or brought donations of 3+ semis, 53-foot semis full of donated goods for East Palestine and the neighboring communities. So I've been out to Ohio twice now myself. And we are currently working on trying to get donations to fill a fourth 53-foot trailer to bring to them on the 16th of April. So we have been working very diligently with a bunch of different other groups and all over the nation that have been helping us. We've been doing public Zooms and bringing everybody in to get input from the residents in Ohio, as well as some of the other groups, and just trying to facilitate as much help as we can for the area.
Yes. So I'm just running some footage here from your YouTube channel. I think this is from about 12 days ago or so when you made your last trip there, right?
That is correct. Yeah, that was as a matter of fact, that's our Vice President of Soup Mama officials truck right there in front of us.
Can you tell me what's going on there in East Palestine, Ohio? How are the residents coping with all of this? You're obviously talking to the folks there. Just give us a sense of what the situation is.
The general situation for the people there right now is that it's generally one of fear, to be honest. A lot of confusion and a lot of misinformation. The biggest problem the biggest complaint that I've been hearing from the residents is that they're getting all of these mixed messages from the government, from independent scientists, from outside news media, obviously from doing their own research. And they're really concerned, and rightfully so. There was a lot of toxic chemicals that they dumped into a trench and then just burnt and created things like phosgene gas, which have been crimes against humanity for a long time. And I'm just putting it nicely. And they basically, committed this horrific act on the citizens of the United States. And the government is basically saying, because they're not declaring an emergency disaster, so FEMA's not in there. Like I said, the EPA wasn't even testing for the right things to begin with, and people are starting to get test results back from their wells and things that they're starting to get contaminated. So now that we're having problems with water contamination, the people are afraid to eat like their chicken eggs, their chickens, their goat's milk. They can't grow anything. They can't let their kids play in the yard or play in the creeks. Actually, today, Norfolk Southern held an Easter egg hunt in the park right next to the polluted creek. So the railroad's trying to make it so everything's normal, but when you go there, it's not. These people, I just read an article, and actually I had talked to the woman in Ohio. I had literally just talked to her the last trip we were there. She has 11 people living in her house. She's very close to ground zero, and they've been living out of a hotel, and she has pets there. So she's been going in and trying to take care of her pets and things. But her urine just tested positive for vinyl chloride and what was it, benzene or something like that. I put the article on the Soup Mama official page on Facebook. It's absolutely unreal because these VOCs are bioaccumulative, and they stay in the body, and they have a shelf life of, like 500,000 years or something ridiculous. And we know that these chemicals can cause things like leukemia, and they can cause rashes, and they can cause respiratory issues. And that's really what these people are experiencing. And you're finding that, people can't get blood tests for these things because the major chains are no longer carrying these dioxin tests. And then they want to get their soil and water tested, and they're getting stonewalled all these different places. And it's a very scary and a very difficult time for a lot of these families because they don't know where to turn, and they don't know what to do, and no one's helping. And that's the scariest part of all, is the government has just completely failed them on all levels. And to me, it doesn't matter if you're right, if you're left, if you're independent, whatever. It does not matter. These people literally have been let down by everyone, and they're scared and confused and helpless and abandoned, really.
Right, because the problems they're facing there would be long-term contamination of their community, health concerns, even property values,
Correct.
Worried about their kids' health,
Right.
exposure, even their pets, right?
Correct.
Food supply, everything.
Yeah, and this is not a rich area. So these people, the average median income is something like 45,000 a year. And so that puts them like right there, kind of at that poverty level. A lot of these people are on disability, or they're elderly. They have small, like, it's families just starting out. Like, I talked to a gentleman who literally bought his house the same week that the train derailed. He had just bought his property, and he was renovating, and he's like, I don't know what to do. He's like, I'm stuck. Another lady, she has 3 years left to go on her mortgage, and her property values are going through the floor, and she's on disability. Where is she going to go? Where are her and her kids going to go? Another lady I talked to, they have 100-year-old farm. It's been in their family for 100 years, a century farm, and the land is ruined. So it's really heartbreaking when you really start to get to talk to these people, because they're just like you and me. They're no different. They're, regular everyday families. They go to work, they work really hard, they want to enjoy their kids' sports, they want to come home and put their TV show on. You know what I mean? They do everything the same way we do. And this could have happened anywhere in the United States or anywhere in the world, and this would be affecting those same communities the same way. It's such a tragedy that the reaction and the response has been so minimal for these people. I mean, there's train derailments all over. We know this. There are other accidents and other natural disasters happening all over the globe. But in most of those cases, the government works properly, or the agencies designed to go in work properly, like FEMA and the EPA and the health departments and all of those. In this situation, they have not done that. They have literally just left these people be, and they're not receiving help. And it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible when you sit and talk to them and really get to hear their stories.
Yes, because the Biden administration basically ignored this at first.
Mhm.
Then Trump did come to town. Did that, and that
Correct.
seemed to make a bit of a difference by focusing some attention on it. Just give me your
It did.
assessment of that.
Well, if nothing else, it boosted the morale of the residents. I also know that Rudy Giuliani was there as well. And Real America's Voice was just there. The last time I was there, Real America's Voice, Steve Bannon, The War Room, John Fredericks, all of them, they were there and they did an entire special, which was great to bring the awareness back to this community. Because unfortunately what happens is we have been so desensitized to so many things in the media, so we see all these disasters and then you see them 1 minute and then they're buried in the news the next. The problem is that when this story got buried in the news, it buried the potential help for these people. And like I said, when you have a community that's basically a farming community and they're used to growing their own food and they're used to eating their own chicken eggs and things like that, and you take that away from them, just from a financial standpoint, just from the groceries alone, their grocery bills maybe went from $150 for like, orange juice and bread and little things, now to like $500-600 because they can't even hunt. I mean, if you think about it, it takes all the wildlife out. I mean, so many fish and amphibious creatures have died from the pollution in the waterways. And then you have, like, again, the soil and stuff that's contaminated. So that means that all those plants and everything that's growing has contamination in it, and the wildlife's eating it. And they don't know how that's going to affect the wildlife either.
Right.
So all of their food sources have been absolutely ruined. Their land has been ruined. The air has been ruined. The air quality there is absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. And these guys I don't know, by the grace of God, how they're doing it, because I know the last time I was there for 4 days. And by the time I came home, I was so ill. My voice was very scratchy. My nose was all stuffy. I actually ended up getting an infection in my eyelid um, the last time I was there, and ended up with a black and blue eye from this last trip. So it was pretty crazy, actually. I actually posted pictures of that because
So,
I've never had anything like it before.
yeah, why is the air quality not good now? Is that because the chemical is still sort of evaporating, or you're getting some sort of gassing off of the 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 remains that are there from the spill and then the combustion process?
Well, okay, so there are absolutely still chemicals all over. They have trucked gallons and gallons and gallons and gallons of water out and contaminated soil. But from what I'm understanding from the people that live there, when this all happened, yes, they tore up part of the tracks, but they put down new tracks right over top of the contaminated soil. So there's a problem there. Not only that, but I was actually, and I took footage of it and I did post it on the YouTube channel. I had one of the residents who was kind enough to take me to Leslie Run, which is one of the streams that comes from EP with the contaminated water. And we were in there, and as you're flipping rocks over and stuff, you can see the dioxins being released into the water and it forms these bubbles. And then you can see all this stuff coming up, like all the oils and stuff coming up, and then the water gets this weird shimmer on the top of it. It's absolutely disgusting. And this is 2 months later. So what's happening is as this as this stuff is still seeping into the ground, it's still coming through the waterways, it's still polluting the Ohio River. And this water looks absolutely benign until you start poking around in it. And after you're standing over it, is as you're turning everything over and releasing that, it's almost like being hit in the face with acid. It does. It makes everything in your face burn, your lips start burning. Actually, we were at the creek for about 10-15 minutes, and I got to the point, I'm like, girls, we have to go. I can't do this anymore. It's literally like sticking your head in a steam vat of acid. It's horrible.
Wow. And the the contamination is at its highest concentration right there in the community. So this is where the need is greatest. What kinds of things do the people there need? Because you're bringing aid, but what do they need?
Okay, well, so the first two trips or so, it was sort of, we were just bringing kind of, cleaning supplies and like dry shampoos, feminine products, things like that, just to kind of replace things that might have been contaminated, things that would be useful. Obviously, like dry shampoo is a huge thing if you don't have water. So we were trying to think along those lines. However, as time goes by and we do more of these public Zooms and we have more people from Ohio and the Negley and Darlington, East Palestine, Negley, Darlington, all those areas coming in and talking about things, one of the biggest concerns right now is actually food. Because again, everything's contaminated and they cannot afford to feed themselves. So that is actually really one of the biggest things. Now, one of the other horrific things that I found out is that they have been trying to count the income from the railroad to help with people who had to move and or staying in or hotels and not in their homes right now, people who are displaced. They're trying to count that as income to take away their their food stamp benefits for the lower income families. Now, there are ways for them to fight it. So if anybody from that area is listening and watching right now, if you don't know how to fight it, please email me at soupmamaofficial@gmail.com. We will get you in touch with Miss Elvira from our board, and she can help walk you through how to do that, how to appeal that process. But again, there are some people that may have already gotten their stuff turned down or didn't know about the appeal process. And like I said, they are trying to use that income to take away those food stamps for those lower income families. So the food is definitely one of the number one priorities right now. Non-perishables obviously are the easiest to transport and they can keep well, and they're sealed in containers that shouldn't be able to be contaminated for the most part. So that is our number one focus for this next donation run. The other big things would be soil and water testing. Folks are very, very afraid to use their water and they're afraid to grow anything in their properties. And what we found out is it's about $1,000 for each soil sample to be tested, and it can cost up to $250 to test a well. And most of these people aren't necessarily on the city water. So this is what makes it really interesting, is that a lot of them aren't on like the city water itself. They're actually well water. About 80% or so of the communities are on well water. So that's where the main concern is. It's not so much the municipal water in EP as it is the people in the surrounding, just outside of town with the wells. That's where the big concern comes in for the testing. So food, the testing, and then of course water and air purifiers. There are some people who are getting them, which is great. There have been some donations for some of that stuff. I know that Luke Grimes was just down there and donated money towards air purifiers or water purifiers for businesses, I believe. So that's really, really great. But there are still a lot of homes outside of that 1 or 2 mile radius that aren't getting any help with those kinds of items either. So, you look at water and air purifiers, the air purifiers are like $500 on up for anything that's going to actually clean out the VOCs, is like the average price that we're finding. And then, of course, treating water in a home, depending on the water system, it varies in cost. And there's other challenges with that too, because not every house is a traditional home structure. Some are more of a mobile home, which creates other kinds of challenges too.
And I think the municipality is telling people that the water supply is safe, right? But
Yes,
obviously
that's
people
what
are
they're telling them.
concerned. Yeah.
Yeah. I won't drink the water there. I
Yeah.
will not. I it's really unfortunate because these people are wonderful people. it's such a great little town. It's gorgeous. It's quiet. There's a lot of fields, a lot of trees. There's families with kids playing all over. I mean, it's wonderful. And you see these creeks and streams and woods. And I know as a kid, I would have absolutely loved it because, you can go traipse out and play in the dirt and run around and scream and yell. And, you're outside and wonderful fresh air, but they can't do this anymore. I mean, these people are afraid to let their kids out in their front yards. And rightfully so, because, if they eat a contaminated leaf, who's to say what that's going to do to their child? So it's really, it's tough. It's very tough.
So tell me about this day here, because this will be repeated when you bring the next load of supplies and aid. Tell me how this all plays out when you roll in here with a truckload of goods and supplies.
This particular supply that you're showing here, this particular drop, this was done at the Negley Fire Company. So our first 2 tractor trailer loads went to Britain Motors directly in East Palestine, where he has a drive-through setup, where Corey Brittain, he has a drive-through set up for water donation. And we initially used that location, but it's right next to the active railroad tracks in EP. And the line was so long, there were people pretty much waiting, across the tracks, all down Main Street, and it made it very, very congested. So this last time we had talked to the Negley Fire Department, who was kind enough to let us do the donation drop there. And we had much more room. So as you can see, there's a large lot there. We had 2 lines of cars. They would come up on either side. We unloaded the tractor trailer, the goods from the tractor trailer and the vehicles and stuff right there in the center where you can see everybody sort of standing. All those volunteers all came from the area there. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful people. Lots of boots on the ground helping out to make this possible. And they helped sort everything out and put together, as the cars would go through, they'd just load up whatever they needed and would send them through. And I actually took footage of that line. The line of cars, I walked the entire line of cars. It was over a mile long. People sitting for hours waiting for some help just to help alleviate some of the expenses while they're paying for these extra lodgings and while they're paying for the extra groceries and all of the extra doctor visits and trying to save for soil samples and well testing. And it's absolutely amazing. But the guys on the ground, they were absolute rock stars. Like I said, a lot of amazing groups, a lot of amazing people coming together from Ohio and all over the nation to make this possible.
Wow. So in the face of adversity, this really has brought out the best in people in the community.
Yes, I have seen a lot of people working together in the town, and they are really pulling together in a way that is just absolutely phenomenal. And they are not going anywhere. They are not going to be silenced. They want their stories heard. They want help. They want people to know what's going on and what's happening to them in their town. Because if it can happen to them, it can happen to anyone. And we need to be very conscious of this, as people, because no one should be basically toxically nuked and then just left out in the middle of nowhere. This should just not be happening in the modern world. And for me, it's really tough because this happened right on the border of Ohio and Pennsylvania. And I live in Pennsylvania. And I live in a small rural community with farmland and a train track 2.5 blocks from my house. So this really hits home for me, because it's like watching my own neighbors struggle and suffer. Ohio has, I think Ohio is number 2 in the United States for farmland. So if you think about it, where this happened and how this was done has basically affected one of the largest areas of farmland in the United States. And it's very concerning because it's a large area that was affected, especially with that chemical burn and that plume going up in the air, that huge, huge cloud that just kind of sat there and then came back down on everything and just settled into the ground. So again, you're talking a lot of farmland, a lot of waterways. I mean, they're finding contaminants all the way in West Virginia from this. This goes directly into the Ohio River. So obviously that's going to affect a lot more waterways than just, you know what I mean, just West Virginia's area. So this should be very concerning to everyone all over, because not only is this going into the waterways and the soil, but then you have to remember, when you remember how science works, this goes back up into the atmosphere and comes back as acid rain, which is going to affect everyone and their crops everywhere all over.
Yeah. So you gave us your email address, soupmamaofficial@gmail.com. Is there a website that we should make people aware of as well?
Well, the website is www.soupmamaofficial.com. We like to keep it very simple to find us. As a matter of fact, we are on, I think, 8 or 9 different social medias as well, and it is all under Soup Mama Official. So if you see that somewhere, you can pretty much guarantee that that's us. You'll almost always see that hashtag as well as the hashtag Eat More Soup. We actually, I think I do. I have it on my shirt today. Soup Mama, Eat More Soup. So you can always find us with a hashtag too, if that's your thing. But we are looking for donations. We are looking for people to run donation locations. We're looking for volunteers. Any hands on deck would be absolutely phenomenal. We are also accepting monetary donations to go towards the purchase of purifiers and for these soil samples and anything else that may come up, like, medical needs or foods or whatever these, whatever we need to supply. But our most active social media page would be our Facebook page. That is where you'll find the most of our information, but you can get a hold of us absolutely anywhere. It just might take me an extra day or two because it's a lot of social media to manage.
A large portion of our audience is Canadian. Would it be best for them to donate monetarily, or because of the border issue, rather than try to send you stuff?
Yeah, I don't. All right. So I've only been over the border once. That was earlier this year, and Canadian customs kept me there for about 2 hours. So if goods traveling across the border, or anything like customs, yeah, I would think that the best way to help might be monetarily. However, I know that there are a lot of amazing Canadian truck drivers up there. So if you guys put together a donation and you have a semi that's willing to drive it over for us, please let me know. We will happily get them to come down with us and see what kind of good that you guys can do from there as well. Like I said, we are looking for volunteers from all over, because obviously the issues that we face here in the US, it's the same thing with Canada. When you guys are facing an issue, all of these things are interchangeable, because what happens to one is bound to happen to another. And we need to look out for each other because we're all one big giant family. And that's really the truth of it, is we are all one race. We are all the human race, and we need to look out for each other because the people in power are not looking out for us. And it's really about neighbors and communities and unity, really.
Yeah. So what happens next now? You're going to go back to East Palestine when?
We are going back on the 16th of this month. So that is our tentative date for our return. So that's actually next weekend. We do have another public Zoom scheduled for Monday evening. So anyone that would want to get any more information, join in. We actually will be having a bunch of different residents from the East Palestine area on that Zoom to speak to exactly what's going on in their towns, tell their stories, and let people know exactly what it is that they need. So if anybody is interested in learning a little bit more or finding out how they can help, or wanting to ask questions or talk to these people, we encourage you to please join us. It'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do have the Zoom link already put out on the pages, so you can find that there. I will be sending it out again and reposting it over the weekend as well. I know it's busy with the holiday and everything, so happy Easter, everybody, for those of you that celebrate it. But we still, even with the holiday, we still have to keep in mind that some of us are very fortunate and blessed every day that we don't have to think about things like our groceries or our water, and we can take those things for granted. But there are people out there who are suffering, and they can't take those things for granted. And I try to keep that in mind as we go through this season, because it really truly is a time for people to wake up and stand up and refresh and renew, and we need to really, Easter is a time of hope. And that's the truth of it. These guys need hope more than they need anything else. And they need hope and love and prayers, and they need our help. So we should keep that in mind throughout this season at any rate. And like I said, Monday night is going to be a really, really big Zoom. So I'm very excited, and I hope that we have a lot of people join in and come and find out what's going on, and volunteer to step up and help a little bit. That would be wonderful.
And we can promote that. We can, remind people of it, again, before we get to Monday. And I guess
Awesome.
it's incredibly important because it seems to me the mainstream media has just pushed this aside now. Like they reported the disaster and they've kind of now moved on. Are you getting that sense as well? Because I'm not seeing the,
Mhm.
much coverage on it at all now. Sorry, did we lose you?
Mhm.
I think maybe we're losing the audio, but yeah, I guess that Zoom meeting on Monday is just one example of the way it's incredibly important, or a way to keep this in front of people and remind people, because the media has sort of moved on from this story, from what I'm seeing. Is that
Well,
your assessment?
yeah, and that's the problem. Like I said, they reported on it and then they buried it and left these people high and dry, and
Yeah.
that's not okay. It is not okay. Like I said, at the end of the day, when you look at what was done, the train derailment was unfortunate, and we can all say, accidents happen. But the train derailment is only one part of it. The part of it that's concerning is how they handled it. And the fact that they haven't declared an emergency disaster so FEMA can come in and help these people out. And the fact that they had those trains running immediately, and the fact that they have buried this story. Again, those chemicals, when they burned, created all kinds of other really horrific chemicals. And everybody's just sweeping it under the rug like it's no big deal. But this is actually one of the things we should be screaming about from the rooftops, because, again, this is poisoning our own people. And, this is something that should not ever be overlooked. Someone should be held accountable for these decisions that were made, and it should not be the people of the small towns of East Palestine and Negley and Darlington. There were people from Norfolk Southern that made this decision to burn this stuff off. That person needs to be held accountable, because they knew what was going to happen. It is a scientific fact. You take this, you burn it, it makes this. So
Yes.
this was calculated, and this is not acceptable. And again, these guys are not going anywhere, and they have been just crying for as much help as possible and as much attention as possible, so this doesn't happen anywhere else to anyone else.
Yes. And I guess that's something to look ahead to, is what kind of recourse do the residents there have? And I don't know if you're involved in any of the legal aspects of this, or if you can give us any perspective on that.
So I do know that they've had a few town halls already. There's certain challenges that the townspeople are facing when it comes to this. Obviously, these are very, very small towns. So these folks, these trustees and stuff, they were never really equipped to deal with a major disaster. I mean, they're, obviously small communities, they have their regular 9 to 5 jobs. Yes, they get elected, but again, most of the time their decisions have to do with parks and recreation and roads. I mean, it's really not, nobody expects this to happen in their town. So some of it is that, these folks don't exactly know what to expect themselves. And some of it is that they don't necessarily make these decisions. They get listened to as a voice, but they don't necessarily have control over these decisions. So there are several things kind of in the works. I do know that the residents themselves have been putting together an action committee right there in Ohio, right there in that area. I've been seeing that. I've been part of a lot of their Facebook groups and stuff, watching them as they start to organize. When we were there last, like I said, Real America's Voice was there. They also talked about potentially doing a series of town halls. Now, I do need to follow up with them. I'd like to find out when they're hosting those, so that we have a little more information, because we had talked about trying to host one before they came. We had started talking about that, about how we can help the residents from a legal aspect, and get them on the right course. But then again, like I said, Real America's Voice came in and said about hosting a series of those town halls. So we're going to try and follow up with them. I did see that I believe there's 2 lawsuits now filed from the state of Pennsylvania, I believe it is, against Norfolk Southern, but nothing from Ohio yet that I'm aware of. I could be wrong. But I do remember seeing, I believe, a second lawsuit that was filed just in the last day or so, a news article about that. So things are starting to move in a direction where people are starting to figure out what they need to do to try and move forward with this a little bit. But it's such a long process. And meanwhile, Norfolk Southern's kicking the can down the road, the government's kicking the can down the road, FEMA's kicking the can down the road, and these people are still going, hey, we need help. They can't wait for the railroad. They can't wait for the government. They can't wait. Who can, I mean, realistically, if somebody goes to you, well, you need to wait 6 months till you can even eat. I mean, you'll be dead.
Yeah.
So these folks, unfortunately, are just stuck in this really awful position, and they need the help now, and they can't wait. So that's where the people step up. That's where the people have to step up, because we need to take care of each other. Because again, this is a prime example of how dysfunctional all of our governments are at this point. And it is up to us, the people, ultimately at the end of the day, we're the ones with the say, we're the ones with the power. So we just need to learn how to kind of pull that all together so that we can start really moving this in a forward direction. Really working on getting these folks some long-term help. That's been one of our goals. That's why, again, we're raising those funds for the purification systems, because there are some people that they have multiple businesses or multiple properties, and they can't just up and leave. Or they're in a position where financially they can't leave, because now the only thing that they own, which was their home and their property, has just been devalued, and where are they going to go?
Right.
So it's a really tough situation, but it is a little bit fluid. As we go, we are learning. Obviously, nobody handed me an instruction booklet for any of this, or the residents. So we are really doing our best to try and collect as much information as we can. And like I said, really listen to the people of the communities to get them the help that they really truly need. And that's really where it's at. Especially, like I said, those Zooms are so important for that reason. And that's how we know things like, okay, this time around, they absolutely need us to bring them food. Because this is, again, it's a fluid situation. So some of these needs may change over time. But again, we are anticipating a more long-term support role for these folks as this whole mess gets straightened out.
Because it is a long-term challenge. It's
Mhm.
devastating for the people there. Property values destroyed, really. And everybody knows that for the average person, it's your home that is your store of wealth. That's where you're investing all of your money over time. That's your retirement fund, essentially, right?
Yep.
or a big part of it. So if you lose the value of your home, that's like just taking the backbone out of your whatever you have for the future. It's destroying your future.
Yeah, well, a
So,
lot of
yeah,
these people planned on giving their homes to their children,
right.
and having generations of, and there's places generations of families on a property,
Yeah.
and they have to wonder, are their children even going to be able to keep it? Is it even worth giving to them? And it is really heartbreaking. And it's one thing to talk about, oh yeah, it's just a piece of property, but again, you have to remember, some of these people were born there. They've been raised there their whole lives. They've been raising their families there. This is their entire life.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like aliens plunking you out of the sky and putting you on Saturn, and saying, to these, when you tell these people to move, they don't know what that looks like. And how do you put a value on that? How do you mark that heartbreak? How do you register that? Like, how do you really explain that to someone? Again, it's such a sad situation, and it's so hard to impart on everyone exactly how dire this is, because we tend to think of things like, oh well, here's your solution, but the solutions aren't always that easy. And sometimes we forget about that human element too, because we're all so busy watching things on a screen that we forget that human part of it, and we forget what it would be like if it happened to us. There's a statistic out there I had read not too long ago, something like 80% of Americans don't even have $500 in the bank, and or $1,000 in the bank, and then something like 90% of them don't even have like 500 in the bank, or something ridiculous. And again, it just goes to show you, we're all one major disaster away from having our homes taken away, or being homeless, or being destitute, or being
Right.
strapped in a position like these folks.
That's exactly right. People think that we live in, one of the most affluent, richest countries in the world, but for the average person, it's sometimes paycheck to paycheck. It's tough out there. It really is.
It
We're
absolutely is.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know that you're extremely busy. I'm so appreciative of you spending time here with us tonight to bring us up to date. Is there anything else that you'd like to bring up or think that I might be missing?
Well, I just want to say, on a personal level, thank you again for allowing me to be here to help raise awareness for these guys. Um, I know that I speak for a lot of families from there when I tell you that this is heartbreaking, and I watch what it's doing to these people and to their homes, to their morale. Um, and I have to tell you, I have met some of the most amazing people there, some really amazing, strong willed, absolutely wonderful people. And they don't deserve this. And we really need to help, and we really need to open our eyes and see what's going on around us. And I know that they thank you guys from the bottom of their heart. That last drop that you were showing at the Negley Fire Department, that was the first load of relief goods that town had gotten since this began. And there were people standing out with signs, and little kids. As a matter of fact, one of the kids, a young lady, she made this and was standing at the gate. Let me see if I can hold it so you guys can see it. And she gave this to me. These are her hand. No, wait. Oh, this way with the camera, maybe. Oh, that's her handprint there. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not very good at this backwards thing, but that's her handprint there. Amazing, amazing families. And it really meant so much to them, that we're there, and that they don't feel forgotten, and they don't want to be forgotten. They don't want to be abandoned, and they want people to know what happened. They don't want this to happen to anybody else, and they're proud people. They're not people that would be out, going, oh, well, I need you to help me with this, and I need you to help me with this, and I need to. No, these are proud people. These are people that work very hard. their whole lives for the things they have. They don't want to be asking for help. They don't want to be in this position. But unfortunately, they've found themselves there. And, every little thing that you guys do to help, whether it's a monetary donation, whether it's some bottled water or some canned food, or even, just sharing their information out to other people that may potentially be able to donate, or reaching out to a company and saying, hey, can you guys help these people? Anything like that, any little bit helps. And it helps them tremendously, and it means the world to them. And like I said, guys, I hope that you can join us for that Zoom Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, because like I said, we will have a lot of the residents. They'll be more than happy to talk to you guys and speak to you about their situations and answer questions and let you know who they are. And you will see that these guys are absolutely just like everyone else, you and me, just trying to do the right thing by their families, and do the right thing for each other. So yeah, join us for the Zoom, please. And please, 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 volunteers, lots of volunteers. We need all the help we can get. And I know that we would greatly appreciate all hands on deck. So
Really appreciate it. There's one thing I have to do before we sign off with you. And when people use their superpowers for good and never evil here on the Maverick News Channel, we knight them. So
oh geez.
I hereby knight Soup Mama.
We, the Maverick family, do hereby dub thee an official Maverick Knight, freedom fighter extraordinaire. May your courage and devotion to freedom and truth become a shining example to the people of our world and the Maverick universe. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've never been knighted before. So that's pretty cool.
You
So thank you.
absolutely deserve that. You've earned that. Thank you very much for everything you're doing. We will promote the Zoom meeting on Monday. We'll let people know. We'll maybe dip into it and
Hey, awesome.
and broadcast it out a little bit maybe on Monday as well, just to make people aware and bring more attention to all of this. And again, folks, if you can donate, you can do that at soupmamaofficial.com. If you want to contact Soup Mama directly, it's at soupmamaofficial@gmail.com. If you can help out in any way, that's how you do it. Canadians, I think probably the best way is just to donate some money so you don't have to deal with the border issues, and then they can put that money to good use. But do what you can, absolutely. I guess. And this is going to be a long-term thing. So don't forget to participate in that Zoom meeting on Monday night too, if that's something that is positive for you to do as well. And we'll just bring attention to it here on the channel. So Soup Mama,
we
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I hope you have a blessed and safe, happy Easter. God bless all of you guys. And I love you, Canada. And, because y'all are my brothers and sisters. And I can't wait to visit again. Just so you know, I am coming back up soon.
That's fantastic.
So maybe next time we'll get a chance to meet in person. I would absolutely love to.
I'd love to do that too. Thank you again so much for everything you're doing. We'll be updating this because this is going to be a long-term story, no doubt.
Absolutely. Yep. We'll keep you posted.
All right. Take care. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye for now.
And again, soupmamaofficial@gmail.com, folks, if you would like to send Soup Mama a message of any kind, but, go to the website, soupmamaofficial.com, or their social media pages. They have ways for you to donate there, and you can, just find out all about all the things going on, like the Zoom meeting on Monday. So all the info right over there on their website, soupmamaofficial.com. Don't go away. I'll be right back after this.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, I'm back. Welcome back. Welcome back. What else do we have? Well, just on a lighter note, Leo, Mouth of the South, posted this the other day. And I'm going to embarrass him now because I'm going to run it.